right. And we're streaming.
Okay. Good morning. I'd like to welcome all of you here today and call this meeting to order. Before we start roll call, I would like to turn it over to Nina Pashtapak, our county clerk, who will be officiating our board members and their oath of office. Nina?
Okay, thank you so much. What we'll do is everybody will raise their right hand and take the oath. And I'll say I, and then you just state your names and then repeat after me from that point on, okay? And we have all the oaths here. So as soon as this is completed, they will go on file in our office and it'll be official, and I'll get to Rose copies so she has them for the files, okay?
Thank you.
Great.
So if everybody raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I'll support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and that I will faithfully discharge
And I'll faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of board member
board
board
member
member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
You are now officially the board member of the UCIGA. So congratulations, and I'll get these on file for you.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
Nina.
much.
Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day. Okay. On to the mission statements. The mission of the Ulster County Industrial Development Agency is to advance the job opportunities, generate prosperity, and long-term economic vitality of Ulster County residents by targeting tax incentives, bonding, and other assistance to foster creation and attraction of new business and the retention and expansion of existing business.
And the roll call also.
Okay, Rose, you want to do the roll call? Yeah.
Faye Storms,
Here.
Rick Jones, Mike Ham,
Here.
Diane Einen,
Here.
Jimmy Malcolm,
Here.
Orlando Reese,
Here.
Daniel Savona. Danny, you're on mute, but I see you're here. And then also we'll be going into executive session later in this meeting, and there's no real seamless way to handle that with Zoom. So if anyone that is present could email me their email address, then I can send you, any non-board members, then I can send you an email when we're wrapping up executive session, and you'll be notified that we're heading back into the open meeting. So if you would email me at info@ulstercountyida.com, then I'll send you an email if you're interested in coming back to the meeting after our executive session later on.
Okay. Next.
So I have a quick question. So,
sure.
So for the executive session, is it only board members, or can the board invite other people in that they want in?
This will be for board members only.
Okay.
I'd like everyone to take a moment to look at the minutes that were sent in your packet last week. Any questions?
Make a motion, we accept as presented.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so moves. Okay, on to the financials, which is page 11 in your packet. Rose, would you like to add anything?
I guess for the month of May, most of this is, again, remember, on the accrual basis. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we received project administrative fees, et cetera. It could just mean that we billed something out for the $500. However, legal fees were caught up last month for the first few months from Joe Ariel. So the 14,000 is obviously not just for 1 month of legal fees. And other than that, the CD that we had, the 12-month CD, finally matured at Bank of Greene County. So we rolled that into our savings account for now.
Okay. Any other comments?
Make a motion, we accept the financials as presented.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Mike.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion moves. Okay, next on the agenda is Chair's Report. In the past month, we have been extremely productive with no lapse of authority, all parts of the IDA working extremely well. These are some of the highlights. We created a new public Facebook page to start our entry into social networking and getting our message out there. We set up a new board member training program with our 2 new board members, our attorney, Joe Scott, and our executive director, Rose Woodworth. We also will be doing a very extensive future training program moving forward, and Rose will speak about that in a moment. We work with our attorneys on how we can respond to the COVID pandemic with regards to the economic future here in Ulster County, and Joe Ariel will be speaking on that in this meeting. A discussion on how the IDA can showcase what we are about, how to apply, what we can offer through social media, formed a basis to work from going forward. We also reached out to Lisa Berger, head of the Office of Economic Development for Ulster County, and we had a very productive meeting of the minds with some goals relating to working in unison for the health of Ulster County and current and future business growth and maintenance. Rose and I also reached out to Pat Ryan and our great county executive. We were all on the same page about moving forward in a unified and cohesive manner, working with the knowledge and expertise of the various county departments to help sustain, maintain, and grow the economic vitality of Ulster County. As most of you know, at the May 19th Ulster County Legislature meeting, Resolution 177 was passed appointing the board members of the IDA. Terms run through December 2021. I'd like to welcome our 2 newest board members. Orlando Reese is an accomplished senior executive offering over 25 years of extensive cross-platform media expertise. Diane Einen has enjoyed a 35-year career in domestic and international business development, management consulting, and education with extensive senior leadership experience. In addition, she has founded and run 2 small businesses. Orlando and Diane's background are very extensive and interesting and multi-layered, and we welcome them on this board. For future information on them, please visit our website, ulstercountyida.com. Lastly, I would like to thank our 2 exiting members. Randall Leverett served as chair of the IDA for the past 2 years. He played an extensive and in-depth role in recreating our matrix and making sure the IDA would ensure the taxpayers' dollars would not be wasted and would be put to the best use for the good of Ulster County. We would like to thank him with a plaque that will be awarded to him in the future. I'd also like to thank Paul Andreasen for his thoughtful and intelligent insights while serving on the IDA board. Finally, I'd like to say that never has it been so crucial at a time in our history as now to work with others side by side and to see the big picture, which is the economic health, sustainability, and growth of Ulster County. We are seeing an eye-popping rapid movement of citizens to our upstate region. These residents will need jobs and resources. Companies large and small will start up or relocate. We are in one of the most beautiful regions with a multitude of resources at our disposal. Now is the time. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. I turn the floor over now to our Executive Director, Rose Woodworth.
Thank you, Faye. It's a little bit long this month, guys. I'm sorry, but there was a lot that's happened. I mentioned last meeting that I had registered Randall, Joe E, and myself for the New York State Economic Development Council's IDA Academy on April 21st at SUNY New Paltz, but the workshop was obviously canceled due to COVID. So the first digital academy will take place on June 24th and 25th with the following session subject to change: a prevailing wage discussion, the 20 to 21 state budget and active IDA legislation, Office of the State Comptroller oversights, audits, and 2020 LDC reviews, energy policies, ABO compliance training for staff and board members, and COVID-19 response efforts, discussion, and best practices. We will need to replace Randall's paid spot for the training with possibly our new chair. And then additionally, the EDC told me that they still have openings if anyone else is interested in attending via Zoom. Brooklyn Bottling, when doing the Paris report, I noticed an error in the closing documents. Joe E has sent them a copy of the page revision. The Resolution 157 report, I finished up the report for the legislature. I just need to send it to Rick. He has graciously agreed to review it before it gets sent in, just for a final set of eyes. The M&T bank transfer, Faye signed the documents to get our collateral accounts set up and to begin the transfer at M&T. That process takes about 30 days. So once that's completed, then we can complete the transfer to M&T bank. There was an old project in the 1980s, Royal Winery. It needed a letter explaining that we no longer had interest in their property. Joe E looked into the matter and drafted a letter that Faye signed last month. Governance update. I finished the information on our projects that are out of compliance based on my conversations with Randall and Paul. However, we felt it was best to wait for the officer and committee appointments before revisiting the matter and finalizing what I'll be sending out to the board so that you can have more information on each of the projects. The open meeting law on June 6th, the governor passed an executive order which includes the extension for public meetings and hearings to be held remotely for another 30 days, which is until July 6th. That will be obviously before our next board meeting. So we may or may not be meeting in person next month. Proposed IDA legislation. A bill was delivered to the governor's office this past Friday, authorizing IDAs to establish a state disaster emergency loan program to make loans to small businesses or nonprofits and to make grants supporting COVID-19 response actions. As you may remember, right now it's only the CRC that's able to do something like that. So this legislation would open the door for us to be able to use IDA funds if that's what we chose to do. A copy of the bill and a brief overview memo from Joe Scott's firm can be found on page 13 of your meeting materials. We received an inquiry from ABO as part of their oversight function on one of our projects, and we'll be responding accordingly. They're just checking in and verifying numbers on all the various closing documents, the application, etc., for one of the projects. As Faye mentioned, we had a brief training session for 2 of our new members with Joe Scott and myself. In the next few months, we'd like to do another one like what was done in 2018 when most of you started on the board. As part of our phone call with Lisa Berger, we discussed having the Department of Economic Development involved in that as well. On page 23 of the packet, you'll find a pamphlet that Joe E has used in the past for IDA trainings, followed by one provided by Joe Scott. We thought these might be useful cheat sheets for any board member that may be interested. I received an email that legislator Brian Cahill, chairman of the Economic Development, Tourism, Housing, Planning, and Transit Committee, would like to invite the leadership of the IDA to make a presentation at an upcoming meeting, possibly July 7th, once we selected our new chair and CEO. I imagine that whoever fills those roles would want the support of the board in this. Aaron, our videographer here, is a man of many talents, and he completed the design of letterhead, business cards, and envelopes for us. This was a project that was started many months ago, and I'm happy to be able to have reached out to him for his expertise to just finally get it done. Once roles are established, we can move forward on ordering these supplies for the office as they were already budgeted for last year. As you know, I started a Facebook page for the IDA to improve transparency and increase our outreach. So far, we have 109 followers on Facebook, and it is still actively growing. I'm excited to see a lot of new faces interested in what is going on at the IDA. With Orlando's advice, I did also create our Twitter and Instagram to at least reserve our name. We have not done anything with those accounts yet, though. Meeting room rentals. I've been in contact with SUNY Ulster, and there's still no official plans to host any outside events at this time. They're working on reviewing and implementing procedures as things open up, but they don't expect to be in for at least 1 to 2 more months, and maybe not even in the fall. So that leaves us kind of lost on where we're going to go once we can no longer do Zoom meetings. In the meantime, I've looked at pricing from a local hotel and event facility. Both of them would be in the price range of $200 per meeting. Currently, we're only paying SUNY Ulster for about $80 per meeting. I spoke with Brian Cahill yesterday, and he invited us to use the library or the legislative chambers again for our meetings free of charge.
Oh,
Yes.
why would we entertain anything else if we could utilize the library or the legislative offices?
No, I agree with you, but I called them first. Yeah.
Now, the other thing, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
I've read the legislation on the Assembly and the Senate bills. What's a viable entity? What are they constituting as a viable entity as far as doing a loan process with or helping out with? And I think everyone's got to realize at the end of the day, we can't give what we don't have.
Right.
You know, we can't put ourselves in a position to not be able to do the daily business of the IDA. So while I believe me, I embrace it. I think we should do things to help people out.
Well, we'll be speaking of that more later in the meeting.
Okay, well, I'm asking her to just off the top of her head, what does New York State consider viable?
I think, Jimmy, if I may step in, it's probably one of those, nice legal, non-legal terms that gets used in legislation, and Joe, you obviously weigh in, that really speaks to exactly the kind of board discretion that you're talking about. The idea that the board itself would make determinations about viable entities. Joe, do you agree with that? I think that's probably what that reference is.
Yes. And Jim, I think you're absolutely right. It is a vague term, and it's when you look at it discreetly, you can say, gee, that's a head scratcher. The concept, though, is the legislature wants IDAs to be responsible with respect to the disposition of loans and grants.
I get it, Joe. If it's left up to us to make the decision, that's fine. Then you can be consistent. If you get at the discretion of, and we're not going down the same path, then we create an issue for ourselves. So that was my only concern. So maybe we can.
Maybe we can look into what they consider viable.
We're going to have to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's no problem. And I do want to say, I agreed with you. I was waiting to hear back from Brian, so we had checked in on other locations for meeting rentals, but as long as the board is on board, I do think it makes more sense to just go back to the county building and also, I mean, we're not wasting money. And also it opens the door to have other departments come in and participate in our meetings.
Right. And it fits them perfectly.
Again, and try, listen, let's just put the 800-pound gorilla out in the room. We proved a lot as a board, things that we could do in-house. Okay, that's great. But you know what? Reaffirming that relationship is something I think we're all looking for, whether it's to the nth degree as it was before, or things that, their expertise or financial help is something that we can utilize. I don't think anybody would disagree, or I hope they wouldn't.
No, I think we're all on the same page completely with that one.
I'm good. I'm good with it. It's great. It's
Yeah.
free. If it's free, it's for me. If these meetings begin to be an event in Ulster County that everybody wants to attend, we just may have a problem with the size. But until that happens,
You know
that's
what? The
good.
more educated citizens that we have and the more interest they take, the stronger board we'll have and the better the agency will be.
Yeah, so if everybody is okay with it, then I will arrange with the legislative staff to move our meetings there for the future.
Great,
Agree.
great.
Okay. Almost done here. On page 44 is Joe Ariel's invoice for the month of May. We need board approval before it can be paid.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Ariel Law Firm, the June 2nd invoice.
I'll make the motion.
All in favor? I mean, a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. So moved. It's kind of hard to see the eyes on the Zoom thing, so I'm assuming everyone's saying aye,
Aye.
Aye.
right?
Aye.
Maybe,
Yeah, if you're not.
it may be a good idea in the voting phase, for exactly that reason, to actually specifically ask if there are any nays, and that way if they're silent, we
Yeah.
know that everybody said aye. But
Okay, I'll
it's
just do
one of
the
those
opposite.
strange
Any
features of
nays?
the
And-
Zoom
yeah.
meeting.
Okay, perfect. Rose, anything else?
Yep, one last thing. Last but not least, Randall had sent letters to all of our projects granting an approximate 60-day extension until June 30th for payment of our annual administrative fees. Faye and I have discussed granting an additional 60 days in light of not being open yet, but she thought it would be better to put it in front of the whole board right now.
Anybody have an opinion on that?
Rick, you're muted.
Make a motion in support of that.
Rick is making a motion in support of it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Orlando.
Thank you, Orlando. Any nays? Danny, you have a nay?
No.
Oh, I thought you
said
were-
I supported it.
Okay, I'm assuming, it looks like it's passed. It's hard to hear Dan, so. Yes, you're good?
First.
I think we
Okay.
should ban a paddle, like a paddle, yes or no. Maybe we get them at,
There's also, for those that don't know Zoom, if you look down your bottom screen, there's a reactions and you can actually do things like thumbs up. So it actually helps.
Can you do that on iPad too, Orlando?
Yes, it's on the bottom of your screen where it talks about mute and all that. There's a thing called reactions. And it just helps see. There you go. There you go. It just helps people see. Lynn put it up. It just helps you see what's going on around the board. Because this is like playing, this is like playing, great.
Yeah.
There you go. See, people are clapping. It just helps.
It's the on steroids Brady brunch we're doing right now.
Correct, but it just helps everyone.
All right, Rose, you're all good?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda are the committee reports. We'll disperse with the Government and Finance Committee reports until next month when we have new chairs for those committees. So for the moment, we're doing the audit report. And Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you on that.
Yeah, we're on page 45 for anyone who's following along in the package online or in paper. So it's 45 of 151. So just by way of summary, initially, I guess we have 3 months or 4 months, I think it's 3 months of reports from Loki Brill on the project called Innis, which is in the town of Rochester. And the purpose of the report was to determine if they were following the requirement to use, to have 75% of the labor that they use on the site be local labor, as defined in the UTEP as being from certain counties, 6 or 7 counties I don't think I could list the counties, but it's the contiguous counties to Ulster County. So the first few reports, if you will remember, were a little bit dicey in terms of them complying with the 75%, but they continued to grow each month. And you can see in the month of May, the report suggests that the monthly compliance average was 90%, which is darn good, quite a bit north of 75%. I don't have, and I had reached out to them, unfortunately, I didn't get an answer before the meeting, but what's the average? So I didn't work out the average for the whole, for each of the reports they submitted, but hey, they're heading in the right direction, and their intent is to comply with what's been provided in the documents. And so I'm very happy with it, and it's great. And I'm glad we have Loki Brill to check that particular item as well as other items. Just as an aside, the only other project that we have on the boards is Brooklyn Bottling. We will be getting a Loki Brill report on other matters, but if you remember, they did not subscribe to using local labor, and so they didn't get any credit in the UTEP for local labor, and thus potentially, as I recall, their percentage of tax inducement was lower than it could have been had they used it. So in any case, the audit committee or the audit chair, unfortunately, we haven't had a meeting, is happy with where Innis is at this point.
Anything else?
The only other thing is that when we do decide on who all the new players are, we have to have an audit meeting as prescribed by the bylaws. So subsequent to today, I'll work with Rose and whoever the new members are. And if I'm still on audit, to put together a meeting. We're required to have an audit meeting once a quarter. I can only speak for audit. I don't know what the other committees are, but once a quarter. So we haven't had one. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Rick. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the audit report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All opposed? All right, we're good. Motion passed. Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Joe Ariel, our local board counsel, will be speaking on that to us.
So the only old business, folks, is the, Rose, you'll have to forgive me. I was looking at the other memos in the packet. Can you quickly give me the name of that?
Wildberry?
Wildberry Lodge?
Right, Wildberry. There's no change there, not surprisingly. That's waiting on local action. There's, as I think everybody knows, there's an application in-house from Golden Hill that will soon, I hope, show up on this report. But other than that, that's your report.
Did you have anything on the HBKD tax credit sublease?
Oh, yeah, you'll recall, members of the board that were there at last month's meeting, that you guys did resolve to approve the tax credit sublease transaction that HBKD applied for. In order to move that along, you did so on the record by oral resolution. It's typical and in fact required that on resolution affecting projects that there be a written resolution memorializing those actions. Such a resolution was prepared by me, so it reflects your approval. But also the Rick had some specific concerns and kind of led the discussion from board members about making certain that there was nothing in the proposed sublease transaction that needed to worry the IDA about expanding what the project sponsor could do at the site and how they could sublease, etc. We walked through, Rick did a very, very thorough review. We walked through some of those concerns with Rick, and that included a conference call with Special Counsel Joe Scott. And Joe obviously can confirm or deny as necessary. But I think we've put all those concerns to rest, and the document itself has numerous representations which were made at my request prior to the last draft of the documents, that nothing in the sublease could, or nothing that they actually do can contradict the approvals of the IDA. I think, Joe Scott mentioned in response to one of Rick's concerns that there may be one place where we could shore that up even further. Wanted to put it in front of the board to make sure that there was no further discussion on it, and then go back to the applicant and wrap this up. But we got where we needed to go on that. And Joe, if you've got anything further, please feel free.
Joe E., that's a reasonable and complete description of our conference call with Rick. I think we addressed his concerns during the call.
And
Okay.
so that's it.
Okay, thank you, Joe, and thank you, Joe. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of considering contract and contractual negotiations and to discuss legal memoranda which contains privileged and confidential information.
Make that motion.
Second, please.
Second.
And before you guys go in, I just wanted to take a second and welcome the new members and let you know that as chairman of the Economic Development Committee, we really did a lot of work selecting this board. We spent hours and hours and hours deliberating and interviewing everyone. And in the end, we were able to come up with the board that everyone in the legislature felt was a good representation of our community. I also want to just let you know that we'll have an open door, and anything that we can do in the legislature to help you folks out, we'll be glad to. And we're really looking forward to a cooperative relationship going forward here. If anyone has any questions or if we can help in any way, just please feel free to reach out to us and we'll do whatever we can to keep this train moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Take
Rose.
care.
Thank you, Brian.
Rose, did you get my email asking for?
Yes, I did.
Okay, a text message would be better than the
Okay,
email.
I'll do it. It's no problem.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Aaron,